We've recently done a video showing how the plants are getting on outside in these pretty harsh temperatures that we've got. Really cold, and it's going to stay cold for at least another week. So the temperatures are bouncing from 0 degrees down to -3. And if you saw a previous video, you'll know that it's had quite an effect on plants that are in ground and they haven't got really any protection. But we've also got quite a lot of small plants that we're trying to bring on. And thanks to putting a little bit of fleece over top of those plants, they're all managing really well. And considering that in UK, this kind of temperature is about as harsh as it gets, I think for that little bit of recovering, we're going to be alright. Because that's a lot of the plants that we're getting ready for planting on in spring. But there's also quite a few other plants that we want to get going because some take quite a while to germinate, and at the same time they need a really long growing season. So rather than wait until spring and then start these particular plants from seed, you need to get a jump on them, and the only option you're left with is growing them indoors. Because unless they've got that extra warmth, they will not germinate at all, never mind start to grow. So that's why we always do January onwards indoor sowings. A little bit of a warmer climate and pop them on sunny windowsills so they've got adequate light. If not, use a couple of cheap grow lights just to bring those plants on. And we've got a few examples of things that we've been doing indoors, and we'll go through some and see how much they've advanced. And one example are these little tomato plants. And these are dwarf tomato plants and they're called garden pearl. So they're little bush plants that produce cherry tomatoes. And we thought we'd start a couple off indoors. Unfortunately, due to the rising energy bills, we can't really afford to eat the living room and a spare room that we don't really use. So these plants have not been in a really warm climate. We germinated them originally on a heat mat, which is very cheap to run. But since then we've potted them on. And although they're growing, they're not growing very fast because it's still too cold indoors for plants like this. So first off, it makes you think to yourself, is it worth growing tomato plants indoors at the moment? And I'd say no, it's not. I only did these two as an experiment to see if we could bring them on quicker before spring comes. But unfortunately, as I mentioned, it's still a little bit too cold, even indoors for these plants, for them to get to any size that's worth bothering with. So if you are thinking about doing your tomato plants now, I would actually wait. Give it a few more weeks before you start them. And the same goes for cucumbers, because cucumbers, once they do germinate, grow really quick. And all of a sudden, you're going to have to be potting them on and potting them on, and you're going to run out of space. But the good thing about cucumbers is they germinate quite quickly. They grow quickly. So there's no need to start anything like that until spring. And the same goes for your tomatoes. I would hold off for a few more weeks before you start those. We popped some onion sets into this old egg box because we can grow them on before we plant them out when that temperature picks up and we've got better light levels as well. And the reason we did that is because if you put them in a little bit of compost to start them off, they'll start putting down roots and they'll also start growing the green shoots. So when you come to plant these out, they'll have already got a jump on season, and when you push them into the ground, they'll stay in ground and they won't be pulled up by birds. So that's the reason we do that, and we're going to be doing quite a lot more over the next couple of weeks. But you can see that that's working. I've also done a tray of multi-sown onions, and that weren't too long ago. And these aren't spring onions, these are bulbing onions. So 4 or 5 onions all bunched together in one group, exactly the same way that you grow beetroots. And they will grow together quite happily and push each other apart as they grow. So in one little area, instead of having one onion growing, which could get to quite a large size, you could have 3 or 4 medium-sized onions. And to me, that's a better use of space if you haven't got a lot to work with. So if you've not already done any of these, try growing some multi-sown bulbing onions, because I do this every year and they work perfect. And you can, as you would with beetroot or any other multi-sown plant, twist just one of these onions out and let the others grow on a little bit bigger. And that works with any type of onion, whether it be red onions or white onions. Give it a try. And by the time it gets to spring, these shoots are going to be a few inches tall. So we'll just pop that out, plant it straight in the ground, and they're away. But the main thing is, they've already got an head start on you. We had a bit of a problem outside with spinach. As you might have seen on previous video, we got it growing on, we transplanted it, but then we got a few days of minus temperatures, which has pretty much devastated most of those plants. But we know that spinach germinates really quick, and it also grows quick in the right environment. So we've sown some extra plants indoors. And again, they're multi-sown spinach. So you've got 3 or 4 plants in each cell. So when it comes to time to potting these on, you'll be growing a nice big bunch of spinach rather than one single plant. And there's quite a lot to go out there, but we're still keeping these indoors. Even though spinach is cold hardy, minus temperatures don't suit any plant. So we'll just keep bringing those on until it picks up a bit. And we're also starting off peppers, because peppers are the main ones that we like to get going very early in season, because they're the ones that need a very long growing season to get any fruit off them at all. And we've done a couple of trays, and you can see that they're just starting to poke through. And again, these have been on an heat mat because peppers like to germinate at temperatures between 75 and 80. Heat mats are quite cheap to buy and they're very cheap to run. And this tray also is a different variety of pepper, and they've started germinating as well. But if you were to put these outside to germinate, even under fleece or in a shed, they wouldn't germinate at all. So things like this, you've got to start indoors. And if you haven't got an heat mat, just pop them in an airing cupboard, because that'll be warm enough for germination. These peppers we started at Christmas. They germinated really well. And then we moved them on into these little 6 centimetre pots. And you can see we've got some really nice little pepper plants there that's got true leaves on them already. So we've got a jump on season with these. We've got 12 plants growing there, and they're sweet bell peppers, and they're called California Wonder. So these will just stay indoors until spring, and if needs be, we'll just keep potting them on and getting them bigger and bigger. And then we've got a really good start on season for us peppers, which to me is really important to do, more than anything else. So we've got quite a few things on the go indoors. A majority of those are doing really well, and some, as we mentioned earlier, not so well. It's just not quite warm enough for them without adding some extra heat, which we can't afford, especially this year. So we're holding back on tomato plants for probably another 6 weeks or so, and the same for cucumbers. But if you want to start anything indoors, concentrate on things like onions. They need about 120 days to reach maturity. Your peppers, pretty much the same, and maybe a few salad leaves like spinach or lettuce. But apart from that, it's well worth holding off, because if you plant things later when the light levels are better and the temperatures are warmer, once those plants germinate, they'll soon catch up with the ones that you've tried to grow previously. So for certain plants, it's not really worth starting them right now. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope if you're growing plants indoors, you're getting some success out of that as well, and we can get a nice jump on that growing season. When spring hits, we'll be ready to start putting plants outside already established. And that's going to lead to a better season and a better harvest. And if you've not already subscribed to the channel or want to see more of what we do between now and spring, please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and we'll see you next time. Take care.